Hello, my name is Devontae Grace, and today I'll be talking to you about metacognition. Metacognition is a cognitive activity about a cognitive activity, or simply thinking about thinking. I usually have a hard time explaining metacognition, but let me just say the best example I can give is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I say this because you answer the question and then you quickly think about, is my answer right or is my answer wrong? Now that I've touched on metacognition, I will move forward by talking about general models. General models is basically monitoring and controlling the center of the self-regulated behavior when it comes to students and their studying and how they test. There are many things I could talk about when it comes to general models, but I feel since my time is limited, I will only go through a couple of things with you guys. The first thing would be the 4 stages, which is task definition, where students decide the task to study. He or she sets goals, makes plans to achieve them, and then the enactment, which is basically the plans and everything, the numerous stages and everything the student plans to go through to achieve his or her goals. Another thing I found interesting about general models was COPES: condition, operations, products, evaluations, and standards. And basically this is how students cope with self-regulated learning. So for a given stage in COPES, a student might, note the conditions that he performed the studying or the test in. Also note the strategies they use, and then evaluate these products and then compare them to the standard. I believe COPES just gives you that something to stand on, whenever I'm forgetting or, what do I need to do when I'm reading this or when I'm solving this. I just can always remember to cope. Student metacognition is really no different from metacognition. Students are asked to understand what they're reading. Is this something they knew before they read this? Continue to use strategies. I can't stress that enough. And, different things like setting goals and, again, coming up with strategies and preparing and develop to make sure that you understand and you're not just reading to be reading, and you are able to point out the most valuable and important information in the text, in a answer choice, question, whatever. While searching for research about metacognition, I stumbled across an article about scientists testing rats for metacognition. At first, I was like, wow, animals can have metacognition. But as I read, I learned that the scientists did a duration of discrimination test on the rats, and the rats were given the option to decline. If the rats did the right thing, they were rewarded. If they didn't, they did not get an award. So after a series of tests, the scientists had enough information to gather that the rats do have control of their cognitive state, and they do know what they're thinking. I was glad I was given the option to compare metacognition between different countries because, I read many articles, but Sweden, India, and Japan were the ones that caught my attention the most. We had, with the United States, of course, some similarities and, some differences, but that was expected. The next country that I read an article on or did some research on was Sweden. Before I say what I have to say, I just want to let everybody know that Sweden is ranked number 2 behind the United States as far as the education system goes. But Sweden was like STEM to me. They basically train their students, and their education is based on just making innovative, motivated, inquiry, self-governed, flexible users to develop knowledge. Basically, they just want them to work on their own and be problem solvers. And I feel like, as far as that concerned, as far as metacognitive is concerned, that's a perfect student for metacognitive studies. They're going to be self-regulated, self-motivated, and they're going to try more than one tactic to make sure they solve their problem. In the article I read on India, most of the participants, they accepted the problem or the situation and were very optimistic in regards to the planned outcome. They also, they showed a flexible approach, adjusting to the changing situation. And I feel like this goes hands in hands with India's high context culture. So I think it is safe to say that the Indians practice metacognition, and though their methods may be different from those in the United States and the other countries that I looked up, they are effective because they handle life like they handle education, or they handle education like they handle life. To be honest with you, Japan wasn't really much different from the United States. The only thing that really caught my attention about the article that I read on Japan was the 3-step method they had. First, they learned the skill by observational learning. Then they learned the skill using it as a kind of cognitive activity. And then they tried to use the skill as a metacognitive skill while using the computer systems. The reason that I picked this article, it really wasn't an enjoyable read, but I really like those 3 steps. I feel like self-regulated learning is kind of hard, so having those 3 steps and doing those things like that, I feel like it would really help anybody. In conclusion, I just want to say that metacognition has to be my least favorite thing about this class and my least favorite video I had to make. But after researching and doing my reading, I do feel smarter. I do feel like I've learned something. Hopefully, the little things I did touch on, which I felt were the most important, you guys learned from and will pass on to maybe your students, your children, anybody, because metacognition is difficult, but once we grab the concept, it's valuable. So thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.